What's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST, Fantasy Sports Today. My name is Matt Striker. His name is Joe Pisapia, and this is the place for those that want to dominate. Whether it be season-long fantasy in the playoff push or straight-up wagering, whatever it is, we've got you covered. Joey P, my man, come on in. I want to see your beautiful face on this screen as I remind everyone how they can interact with us at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. We want to hear from you, and I'm sure you've got stuff you want to say to Joe. Joe, first and foremost, as you know, winter meetings are upon us before we talk football. I'm a huge baseball guy. We'll be talking that when the season kicks off. Thank you for the Fantasy Black Book. It's out now. It's available. So many people already diving in. I cannot wait.
Yes. The Baseball Black Book, the earliest we've ever released it. Christmas came early for all you baseball nerds out there. And the winter meetings looming this week where everybody's starting to talk about the hot stove for real now. We'll probably see a lot of moves in the next week, one would hope. So a good time to be a baseball fan. And look, a good time to be someone making the fantasy playoffs too. We're in week 14, Matt. This is that big push. Some playoffs have already started in some leagues, which I keep telling everybody, stop this. Why are you doing this? You can't start playoffs in a bye week. There's 4 teams on a bye week. What the hell are you doing? This is bad fantasy. Don't do it, everybody. Don't let your friends go out there and have bad fantasy football experiences. Then it turns them out to fantasy football. And then everyone just like the fabric of our being starts to fall apart a little bit. And I don't like it. So this is it. This is our last push. A lot of teams are on the bubble. We're trying to get everybody into those playoffs. So, Matt, I'm excited about it. We got a lot of news to get to this morning.
All right, so let's do it, and let's talk about some quarterbacks. We'll talk about a wide receiver, and I'd like to get to, there's 2 of them, actually. Let's start at the bottom and start with what has already happened. So CeeDee Lamb will enter concussion protocol as of the events on Thursday night. Joe, your initial thoughts on what that means for CeeDee Lamb managers and how we can pivot?
It's not good, and the pivot is not going to be great either. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this because typically when someone's in the concussion protocol, they end up missing the following week. Now, the only silver lining here is that that game was on a Thursday. So there's another couple days. So I would say it's more like a 60% chance that he doesn't play, maybe even 70 instead of 100, right? Because I think typically we see someone in the protocol, they skip that next week. Now, the Cowboys obviously have a lot of important games here. They're fighting for their life here, especially after that loss against Detroit. So we shall see how things go. Again, it's not complete doom yet, but you need to be looking on the waiver wire. We're going to give you some names later in the show that could help you out potentially the next week or so. But if you have CeeDee Lamb and some of these names are out there on the waiver wire, we're going to discuss later in the show today, I would be ahead of the curve. I would not wait for CeeDee Lamb news because there is a good chance still that regardless of the fact that he's got those extra days coming on a Thursday to get out of the protocol, that it will be very difficult to do so.
All right, we will have some of those names, so stick around. But right now, let's see what we have in front of us. Talk to me about the Chargers. Talk to me about their situation.
Well, the situation is kind of uncharted territory, right? We have Justin Herbert, who had pins put in his non-throwing hand this week, and he is questionable, and he is going to try to play. If he can't play, Trey Lance would be the pivot, and that would bring down a whole lot of wide receivers with him. And the problem here also is compounded by the fact it's a Monday night game. Yay! So we're really not going to know until Monday night. So you have to make your decisions today if you want to put Chargers in your lineup or not, which ones you want to put in. Omarion Hampton also returning. That's big news too. What will his role be? What will happen with Kamani Vidal? I think Vidal still gets the bulk of the carries, to be honest. He's been terrific, especially you're going to really need him because if Justin Herbert, again, isn't 100%, we know that. You imagine they're going to run the football a lot. The problem is, handing the football off with a broken hand is not the easiest thing either. So are they going to run a lot of pistol formation the way Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers did last week? That didn't work out very well for them with his limitations. Now, Herbert, much different stage of his career, much different age, much different size, the whole thing. So there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of question marks regarding this. And the Eagles are a team with question marks on their own, too. They've had loss after loss here. Can they get a victory? I think they will. But I think the Chargers right now are in a tenuous position from a fantasy perspective. I would be looking for other answers than the Keenan Allens and the Ladd McConkeys, and to a certain extent, even this backfield. If I have to start them, I will. But if I have other options that are valid today, I would consider it strongly.
All right, now before we get to the injury report with breaking news on who's in and who's out, let's tackle a few more news notes. Let's go to the Commanders, and then we'll go to Atlanta, Joe.
Yeah, good news for the Commanders. We have Jaden Daniels returning to face the Minnesota Vikings. So this is big news there for fantasy managers everywhere. And I would throw him right back in because if he's good enough to play, he's had some time. The Commanders really don't have a lot to play for. So this is another Joe Burrow situation where he's just coming back to play football because he wants to play football. So that's great. Is it too little too late for a lot of teams? Maybe. But it's a good situation here. I think the Vikings have quit. It certainly does elevate the Terry McLaurins and Deebo Samuels as well with that return of Jaden Daniels. So all of a sudden stock goes up for them a little bit. And then Drake London, we discussed this, Matt, right? A few weeks ago when he had this injury. And I said, trade him at the deadline because I don't think you're going to see Drake London again. And if you're fighting for your life in the playoffs, you're certainly not going to see him during this next 3-week window. And we have not seen him in this 3-week window. And the purpose I'm telling this story again is to remind everybody next year, even when it's a premium player you have, if they have an injury and they're on an irrelevant team, there's a chance they're going to miss significant time no matter what anyone tells you, even if they don't go on the IR necessarily. And that is just something you cannot have on your roster dealing with trying to make a playoff if you're on the bubble. If you're a playoff team and you had Drake London, you're just going to wait it out and hope for the best. But right now, you're in a scenario where the Falcons have nothing to play for. They just lost to the freaking Jets last week. And now, what is the point of bringing Drake London back sooner than later? Zero. None. You might not see Drake London all season long, the rest of the season. So I hope everyone listened and hope they took 50 cents on the dollar because it's better than going broke with Drake London on your bench.
Whoa, clip that and put that out. Use the hashtag FST. My gosh. All right, on the other side of the break, we're going to do our best to make some money. But right now, let's go to the injury report. Joe, as a fantasy manager myself, one of my teams pushing for a playoff spot. I've got a player here, actually two of them that I want to hear about. But first, let's start with one of them, and that's Davante Adams for the Rams. What's up?
Yes, this is the time of the year with the old man injuries. I sympathize. I feel you, dog. I got you. Davante Adams dealing with a hamstring issue, but he is going to play. The Rams coming off a big upset last week to the Carolina Panthers. Now, look, you turn the ball over to even bad teams or mediocre teams are going to beat you. And that's what the Rams did. I assume they take out their frustrations this coming week on the Arizona Cardinals, which is bad for the Cardinals, but good for Jacoby Brissett, who's been a QB1 every single week that he's played. And guess what? Kyler Murray, he ain't going to play again this year. So another guy we talked about, look, you're not going to see some of these guys, and Jacoby Brissett has taken over. Out this week, Alvin Kamara, not surprising there as well. Older player, nothing to play for, possible trade candidate in the offseason. There's a lot of reasons why Alvin Kamara will not be playing the rest of the season, but he won't be playing at least week 14. Good news, though, T. Higgins, with the concussion protocol, he has passed through. He will play. This game has a huge total already, 53.5 in a lot of markets. I want everything I have in this game. I'm pushing all the chips in forward. Dalton Kincaid's going to give it a shot, too, to go in this game. And if he is going, I would throw him in the lineup. To me, he's a top 10 tight end this week against the Bengals, a team that's given up the most fantasy points to tight ends of any other team. Kincaid is one of those favorite targets of Josh Allen. This is, again, a huge game here for the Buffalo Bills. Not so much for the Cincinnati Bengals, but look, the Bengals right now, Joe Burrow playing fast and loose is very dangerous. Yeah. Another note here, too, Jaden Reed being activated today. He had missed time with a broken collarbone. Now, I would not necessarily throw him in a lineup. You have to activate him in a lot of leagues, especially on Sleeper, but stick him on the bench because it looks like Watson so far has been the one go-to guy that we can rely on the last month or so. Dontavian Wicks had a big game, obviously, on Thanksgiving time. So there's a lot we're trying to still discern about the Packers scenario here. And they're playing a Bears team that continuously, every single week, gets undermined, underlooked at, and just kind of dismissed. And every week, they not only cover, but they win. And I think they're going to cover this week against the Green Bay Packers again, somehow, some way. So those are all your injuries. There's a lot of them to discern. We'll get you caught up on some of the ways we can Band-Aid those injuries. And in the meantime, when we take this break, we're going to come back with the fantasy over-under, and we're going to go right back to Buffalo, baby, when we start. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more FST after this.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Now you're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I said.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone has just been lying about this whole thing. Okay. Of the top 15 teams in the country, there are 4 total losses to unranked football teams. Miami has half of them.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Florida was thought to get Lane Kiffin, but they go and turn to Tulane head coach John Summerall. This is a solid hire, coach.
He's a tough-minded coach. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Auburn, just knowing he's from Alabama. But I think Florida got an outstanding coach. He will be a tough nut that knows how to win football games.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here. Quick reminder, at SportsGrid TV, those are our social media handles. We want to hear from you. And during the break, I had mentioned to the guys that I had watched Home Alone, and I want to put it out to you. I'm not going to ask the is Die Hard a Christmas movie question, but I want to put it out to you guys. Do you cry every time at the end of Home Alone? Because I mean, I do. I can't help it. I think everyone here behind the glass, they're nodding. I just think it's a crying movie. Joe, you don't have a lot to cry about at all. Your over-under picks have been making a lot of people money. But as a sentimental guy, as a girl dad, does Home Alone bring the tears?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I cry at Die Hard, and it is a Christmas movie. So, I mean,
Well done, Joe.
when Hans Gruber falls off there, and then he comes back out, and he comes out of the building, and he finally sees Reginald Vell Johnson. He finally puts a face, to the voice that's been helping him through. That feeling of brotherhood is very emotional. I'm getting emotional just talking about it right now. But I Home Alone, It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, all the Christmas movies. I mean, to a certain extent, like the older I get, even Christmas Vacation at the end too. Like when he just, because I think as a dad, like you try to do all these things, you want to make the perfect Christmas, and inevitably, a squirrel does get inside the house or something happens to that effect. And I think you just kind of understand Clark Griswold the older you get when you have kids. So there you go. There you go.
Well
I'm with
done.
you.
Well, I don't know how I can pick that up, but you know what? Let's do it.
I know, but I'm dying to see you try.
Oh, gosh, no, at this point, I've completely given up. I got nothing. Let's just go to the fantasy over-under here because we can. Last week, we broke even, and that's fine. But overall, we're still making money, and that's the point. So I'm going to give you a player. You tell me if they go over-under. Now, before the break, you had mentioned Joe Burrow. You used the term fast and loose, and, of course, I became interested. Joe Burrow has been playing that way. This is a fun team. Nothing to lose at all. The over-under on Burrow in the air is 257.5. Does he go over or under today, and why?
I definitely think he goes over this number. I think this total gets pushed. You could set this number at 60 and I would still like it. Just keeping it real. So right now you can even get this at 250 and a half right now. I'm seeing in some markets, it's actually come down a little bit. So I'm going to call it 250 and a half, to be honest with you, going forward, since that's what the new number is. 252, 253 in some other spots, but you can get a couple 250s in a couple markets right now. And I just see, I don't care, regardless of whatever the weather is or whatever impacts this game. Look, at the end of the day, it's Joe Burrow in Buffalo. Again, the most dangerous thing you can do is tell Joe Burrow, no, you can't do something. It's basically his entire career. His career where, he transferred to LSU and they said, well, you're not going to do anything, so go ahead, go transfer there, and he does. And he said, well, you're not good enough to be the number 1 overall pick, and he was. And then well, there's nowhere you're going to beat, the Chiefs, and you're nowhere you're going to beat the Bills, and he keeps doing it all the time. So, Joe Burrow is a very dangerous man, and I think with this number here, then I'm going to go over, especially because you look at what Buffalo hasn't done defensively and the pieces they're missing too. No Bosa, a couple other pieces missing from this defense. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. Get your popcorn ready. It's 1:00. Let's go. Joe Burrow over the 250.5, which is the new number I'm taking, not the 57. I'm giving myself a little out now. And it's funny that it's changed because I would think it would go the other direction. So I'm going to go fade the public there on this one.
All right, good sell. You got me pumped. Now, in order for that number to hit, what else needs to happen in this game? Because I'm looking, I see Chase Brown has the over-under of 52.5 rushing yards. Does he go over or under?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you can bet on Chase Brown this week. Now, if you look at what Chase Brown's done recently, we only have the one game sample of the return here from Joe Burrow, but he has gone over this number the last 3 games leading up to that. And actually, he's gone over this 5 of his last 6 games in terms of rushing total. So I love this number already. Again, when you look at what's happened to this number's even moved from 52.5 down to 49 in some markets. I see BetMGM's got it there. You can get 51.5 at Hard Rock Bet. So there's a couple different betting spots right now where you can actually get this, and every yard counts. So take them whenever you can. But I say this too, you could put this together with the rushing and receiving if you want to go over that number. I'm going to stick with the rushing personally because I do think that no matter what, we're not going to get away from Chase Brown working in this game on the ground. I still think he's going to run a ton. And the Buffalo Bills, again, defensively, they're not the best all year against the run. We've seen this time and time again. The reason why the Steelers failed against the Buffalo Bills is because they were utterly predictable, which is what the Steelers have always become in this last year or so with Arthur Smith. So again, you can hang that however you want. The point is Chase Brown goes in this over. I would also say that Jamar Chase would be an over today as well. So Bengals overs is a way that I'm definitely attacking this football game. James Cook, the problem is his numbers on the other side are too high. Some of the other numbers too are unknown. You just don't know where Josh Allen's going to go with the football. The Bills side is much tougher to bet than it is on the Cincinnati Bengals side.
Great job as always, Joe. Thank you for breaking that down. Let's continue now. Earlier in the show, we talked about Davante Adams' health. He is a go, so let's go to Davante Adams. Over-under of 51.5 receiving yards. Does he go over or under, or why?
Davante Adams, I think, is going to be part of this taking it out on the rest of the world. The Rams pissed off from last week. Maybe a bit of a trap game, looking ahead to an in-division game. Maybe they didn't take the Panthers seriously enough. And again, turnovers will just kill you. It doesn't matter what level of football. It doesn't matter if it's, 12U flag football or if it's the NFL. Turnovers will kill you. And you cannot have it happen time and time again, especially when you're in the red zone or especially when you're on the other side, because all that good that you've done, the air goes out of the balloon, right? It's just, you can't have the turnovers. You got to get points there. So look, it happens. Bad games happen. They'll shake it off. But I will say he's gone over this number here in 3 of the last 4 games. And I think Davante Adams, as this numbers come down, remember, it used to be like in this high 60s and we said, that's no good. It's not working. Now Vegas is finally readjusted where now I'm actually tempted for the over. I think it's adjusted too far. And Jacoby Brissett has shown you that he is not afraid to throw the football. So they will get into this. This will be even garbage time. They will keep pressing, and the Cardinals will keep trying to score. Now, Marvin Harrison not playing this week either, so you're going to get more Michael Wilson in this game again. And we've shown that connection with Brissett and Wilson has been outstanding this year. But I think Adams over the 51.5 and to score a touchdown, you can even put that in a little duo together. Really nice way to attack this game.
Again, another great piece of advice. All right, before the break, let's get one more in. Tua Tagovailoa, 211.5 passing yards. Yes or no? Take us to the break, Joe.
Look, Tua outside in the cold, it's not good historically. It's just not. So I'm going to take the under here on this number. You're getting it right now at 211.5. Some markets already have it at 210. He's gone under this number for 3 straight weeks. And again, the elements in Tua are just not friends. And look, let's give the Jets a little bit of credit, right? Defensively, they've played better since getting rid of some of those players on defense we thought were good. Who would have thought? We'll be back with more FST after this.
Let's play our game of buy or sell. Let's get to the quarterbacks for next year. Mac Jones will be an NFL starter to begin next season. He's looked great. Brock Purdy has not. Buy or sell?
You look through the NFL here. Miami, Jets, Cleveland, Raiders. I'm just going
Arizona,
by division.
Minnesota.
Arizona, definitely. Minnesota, definitely.
Raiders.
I mentioned
Can
the Raiders.
you just say buy and move on, please, to the next question? Because
It's a
you know
buy.
it's a buy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a buy. It is a buy. He's right. He'll definitely be starting for somebody there, right? He has had a nice season. He'll start for somebody. Jets.
Buy. Gardner Minshew was a starter in the NFL year after year for the next guy in waiting. I mean, this keeps happening. You think that Mac Jones is not going to be a buy? All right. Daniel Jones will finish the season as a better fantasy quarterback than Justin Herbert of the Chargers. Both players, George, have slipped quite a bit in November here.
Broken fibula. No, he's not going to finish better than Justin Herbert. I don't know if he's going to finish the season. You got to think if they were playing better, maybe he'd be sitting out a week or two. But they've been struggling, trying to win that division. Big games now against Houston, that they're sort of pushing him in there. No. I know the offensive line for the Chargers is horrific. I get it. But no, I'll say Justin plays a little bit better.
I'm buying it. I don't like what I see with the Chargers at all. Can't run, can't throw, can't play defense. Feels like Harbaugh's getting a little
Broken
desperate.
fibula.
It's not a tibula. It's a fibula. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, fine.
I don't know that to be true.
Okay.
It just sounded good.
Fantasy Sports Today, Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports. Today, Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need, and now it's time for the Market Watch. So here, each and every week when we visit this segment, we've tried to find the best value. Now, Joe, you're going to tell a lot of people, I told you so, but right now we're looking at even money and plus 105 for this first topic, and that is for the NFL's regular season MVP. The players, Drake May, even money, and Matthew Stafford plus 105. Now, right before we came on the air, our producer, Sam Y, the sports guy behind the glass, posited a question, and I put it out to you, Joe. Can a guy that has not thrown for 300 yards in a single game win the NFL's MVP? I assume he's talking about Drake May.
Yeah, well, again, most valuable player, right? So if you take him away, what becomes of this team? We take Drake May away from this team. It's not a special offense, right? There's no Puka Nacua. There's no Devontae Adams or Kyron Williams, right? There's none of those guys. Both defenses of the Rams and the Patriots are very good. I still think the Rams are the best, quote-unquote, talented team in the NFL. But I think that gap got a lot shorter between them and the Patriots week over week. And people say, well, who have they beaten to, right? And I think that conversation goes on. And let's not forget the Giants are a team that took the Denver Broncos to the brink, lost in the fourth quarter, blew a lead in the game they should have won, right? They did the same thing with the Chicago Bears, who were the number one seed. They're a bad team. I seem to remember Jameis Winston and the Giants should have won in Detroit 2 weeks ago, too. Everybody forget that. So the Giants' record is bad. But I think just to call the Giants straight up bad is not paying attention to what's happened this season. They have taken playoff teams over and over again in the NFC to the brink of, disaster, and they've fallen apart. And unfortunately, that's cost Brian Daboll his job and the defensive coordinator's job and all that. But the Drake May thing, he hasn't had to necessarily do that because the defense has been so good. Drake May is first in completion percentage. He's first in passing EPA. He's first in passing yards. He is first in air yards per attempt. He is first in completion air yards per attempt. Passer rating, he's first in completed air yards and also MVP odds, as you're going to see right now. Right now, plus 100. Matthew Stafford plus 105. Right now, you're getting in some markets here. And I guess the point is this. It's which narrative is the NFL marketplace going to take? Are they going to take, well, Matthew Stafford, this is his last shot at MVP. Here you go. It's like when Al Pacino won the Oscar for Scent of a Woman. Is it his best role? No. But, we wanted to give Al Pacino one before, it was too late to give him one. And you're kind of wondering, is the 2025 season Matthew Stafford's scent of a woman? It's a good season, don't get me wrong. But, Drake May, on the other hand, we're looking at a guy who is, going from basically, in a situation where he played a couple games last year in an awful situation to being first in everything. And it's a tough one because then the other narrative is anointing and making a new star. And both narratives are very valuable, and I think they're really interesting to voters, and I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing, and now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Yeah, and if you look at it, the Pats atop the AFC, the Bears atop the NFC. Could we see a rematch of the 1985 Super Bowl, and will it be the same outcome? I doubt it. All right, let's go on. This is going to be a fun thing here. Last week, you were portending what would happen if the Jaguars and the Colts flipped. Last week, the Colts were minus 210 to win the AFC South, Jacksonville plus 280. This week, Joe, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, this week, boom, look at the difference. We said Jacksonville would go ahead of the Colts, and they did. So this was the time last week to beat Jacksonville. They had 2 games remaining against the Tennessee Titans. The Houston Texans were playing the Colts. We said that the Texans would at least cover, if not win that game, and they did. And they have to play the Texans again later in the season in Week 18. It's a bad timing of schedule with a quarterback that has a broken leg. And look, I don't love the Jaguars. Believe me, they are probably my kryptonite when it comes to betting my entire life. But I will say this. The last time the Indianapolis Colts have beaten the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville, I think people were still doing the Macarena or something. Like, it's a long time, baby. That's what I'm saying. It's been a very, very long time. So just go check that out. Even when the Jaguars are bad, the Colts somehow struggle in Jacksonville. I think the Jags are in a great pole position right now. And I think they are in a spot where if they win today, this might even be minus 135 by the time we get to next week. So this is your last chance to get some value on the Jags. Even if they lose today, all is not lost. They have another game against the Colts coming up. They could split. But again, it's that difference of schedule down the stretch for these two teams. And what we needed to have happen last week. If you were in on it, you're in a good spot to make some money. So keep that in mind. Always be looking at that market watch. When we return, we're going to watch who to get in our lineups with a little start and sit. Don't go anywhere.
Just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You've got an 18-1-6 hockey team. You've got a 10-2 football team. So the best record in hockey, the best record in football, and top 5 in the NBA with Jokic and the gang, and the Nuggets at 14-6. And I'm saying to myself, what other town comes close to that?
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You then had a sensational game with the Bears and the Eagles. Who knew how great the Bears were in terms of blowing out the Eagles and maybe having the NFC race go topsy-turvy. And then you also had the 2 NBA games. So it was a big win, I thought, for Amazon for their first ever really big Black Friday day. I think it's something we see them doing now forever on that Black Friday.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports. Today, we're having a good time here. We hope you are as well. At SportsGrid TV, those are social media handles. We want to hear from you. It's time to take some of your questions. Start, sit with the master, the maestro, the author of the Fantasy Black Book, the one and only Joseph M. Pisapia at law. Okay, Joe, here we go. People have some concerns. You'd be a great lawyer, dude. I would love for you to defend me no matter what I have or will do. Okay, here we go. Kareem Hunt, Kansas City against Houston, or Zonovan Knight, Arizona against Los Angeles. Start, sit, why?
Yeah, look, this is a tricky one here because I don't love either of these scenarios. Zonovan Knight sometimes gets phased out a little bit in the games where they're playing from behind. They're playing the Rams this week, so it could be a game where they're playing from behind. And then on the flip side, you got the Houston Texans defense who's riding high. And you know what's hilarious to me, Matt, is everybody continues to talk about, oh, there's another, must-have game here for the Chiefs as they're trying to make that playoff push. What about the Texans? What about the Texans who have a better record just about the Colts? Nobody's talking about the Houston Texans. That defense has played great. Stroud is back. I don't understand. Am I missing something here? And the Texans always play the Chiefs tough. Always. You go back to that playoff game in January, right? Like, they were in that game. They had it, and then injuries struck, and unfortunately things kind of fell apart there for the Houston Texans at the end of it. But this whole narrative, like it's all about the Chiefs and not about the Texans in that game, I think is the wrong way to look at it. I'm taking the Texans side of that game again, just like I took the Texans last week. We're just keeping rolling that. So with these guys, I would say Kareem Hunt has better touchdown equity in this contest. Yeah. So if you're playing in a standard league or even a half, I might lean towards him. But I think Zonovan Knight has more upside, where I think that Cardinals offense with Brissett has shown you enough that they can keep pace with the Rams, and they kind of want to. They don't mind Jacoby Brissett throwing the ball 40 times. Like it's fine. So we're just going to keep pushing, in which case then Bam Knight is going to be on the field a lot at some point too. So I think the total could be a little higher in that game also. So again, it is really tricky. If I'm just touchdown hunting, Hunt probably has more touchdown equity, especially with Pacheco going away. But I think overall in the PPR leagues, especially too, not that Zonovan is a prolific PPR guy, but I think that Zonovan Knight will continue to get the bulk of the carries regardless here. But it is very tricky. Like he has been averaging about 4.5 targets a game. That's good enough here in the PPR for Zonovan Knight for me. So again, it's very contextual in terms of what you're playing in terms of league format.
All right. Thank you for the approach. All right. Now, the chatter on social media is still about this Houston at Kansas City game. Jaden Higgins or Darnell Mooney in Drake London's stead versus Seattle.
Yeah, look, it's also Kirk Cousins, too, at the end of the day at this stage of his career, which is a little tricky. So I think a lot of that has to do with it. Like, Jaden Higgins has done well. Kansas City is no joke, right? You're going against a very good defense, the Kansas City Chiefs, or at least the remnants of it. Last week, though, 5 for 5 for Jaden Higgins. Didn't have the touchdown, had the touchdown the week before. So the question is, does he have the same rapport with CJ Stroud as he did with, Mills under center? And that, I think, is the question everybody really has. Now, it was good because we got 11 points from Jaden Higgins, but we didn't get that touchdown. Is that touchdown equity available in this game? I think it is. I think if you're the Chiefs, you're trying your best to stop everything Nico Collins' way and make him beat you with somebody else. And I think as time has gone on here, the rookie Jaden Higgins is starting to get a little bit more confidence from the offensive coordinator and from the quarterbacks and everybody else. He's a very good talent, right? He was a talent that I know I was very excited when he came into the NFL, and I thought he would be very good. And I think he's almost like a Nico Collins light. And I think next year you might see him, in a whole different role. But I will take Higgins here playing with Stroud over Cousins at home against that Seahawks defense. That Seahawks defense is really brutal. And I just don't have any faith in Kirk Cousins at this point. So although Mooney, you would suggest like, oh, well, he'll get more volume. I just don't know what it's going to look like. And I'll take my shot here with Jaden Higgins. Let's take the kid instead in a game that matters.
All right, continuing to take your start-sit questions, talking to Joe Pisapia, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. Joe, still some chatter here at SportsGrid TV about this Houston to Kansas City game. An option comes up for Dalton Schultz or Oronde Gadsden. That's the Chargers, and they have Philadelphia. Which way would you lean?
Well, look, the frustrating thing is Dalton Schultz only has 1 touchdown all year, right? So that sucks. Right. But the other frustrating thing is Monday night waiting for Justin Herbert and his health to clear itself up or to really see what it looks like or how they change this offense. So it's not his throwing hand. That's the good thing. But again, there's a lot of situations here where this could go poorly for the Chargers. There's also that hero scenario where, oh, the hurt guy goes out there with the thing on his hand and he has the game of his life. Sure, that happens too. I just don't want to put my fantasy shares into that narrative. So I'm going to just play Dalton Schultz today. Hope he gets some volume. Hope he can catch 4 or 5 balls, get me in there. And if he gets a touchdown, that's just gravy. I like Gadsden as a player. It's been a little bit more inconsistent of late. And again, with Amari and Hampton coming back too, I think that might change a little bit of how the offense operates with the 2 backs that you can count on. So you might see some more intermediate targets going to guys like Amari and Hampton as opposed to Gadsden.
Right. All right. Stick around. We'll be doing some waiver wire ads. Right now, we're still taking your start-sit questions on FST. Joe, this next one involves the quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett, you've talked about this Arizona and Los Angeles game, or Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville and Indianapolis. We've talked about how that AFC South is turning out. Where do you lean?
Jacoby Brissett. Here we go.
Right.
Since week 6, QB7, QB12, QB10, QB10, QB4, QB8, QB8. What else? What do we need? What do we need? He's a QB1 every single week. I know the Rams are great. Look, Trevor Lawrence last 2 weeks has played well. So credit to Trevor Lawrence. He's been a QB1 in those games too. Indianapolis, he's very startable this week, but I'm still going to play Brissett. Even when the matchups aren't in his favor, he's still putting up massive fantasy points. So I have to go that route again.
All right, this next one comes with offensive players that are near one another independent of their offensive position. We have a wide receiver 47 is Devon Vele for New Orleans against Tampa Bay, or running back 36 is Bashaw Tootin, Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Which way should I lean?
I'm going to go with Devon Vele here. Shuck has played okay, not great, but Shuck has been all right, and he has seen 15 targets in the last 2 weeks with Tyler Shuck. And they are playing Tampa, a team that you can throw the ball on. And I understand it's a road game. I get all that. But I think it's the target volume that's so intriguing for me with him. He had a big game against Miami, but again, that's against Miami. However, I think, when you're in a situation where weather's not an issue and Tyler Shuck can go out there and throw the football, and, you're looking at Vele coming off an 8-catch game for 93 yards and a touchdown. Clearly, Devon Vele is getting the confidence of Tyler Shuck. Chances are they had a lot of practice time when they were working behind the original starting crew. And I think that's something that matters and shows up as well. So a lot of scenarios here today when you're looking at some of these players and trying to get the right players in. And that's what it's all about right now, is making these right decisions to get into playoffs. And I know a lot of teams are on the bubble, and that is one of those things. Matt, do you have any bubble teams? Or are you somebody that's clinched your playoff spots, or are you fighting for any leagues this week?
In most of my leagues, I'm comfortable, but there is one that is contingent upon what Tampa's defense does. And I have a choice between Dalton Kincaid or the kid from the Jets. I have picked up Wilson to take advantage of he and Brissett's relationship. So yeah, there is one team that is heavily weighing on a lot of those players. Now, before we get to the break and we do the waiver wire ads, I wanted to ask you, is there an upset special that jumps out to you today that perhaps wagers can look at?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time, Matt? I missed that.
An upset special that might be jumping out at you that wagers can look at.
Yes, upset special. For me this week, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, here we go again. It's just every single time. And I mentioned earlier that the Jaguars are a team that, typically rub me the wrong way and take money out of my account, which I don't love. But I'm definitely right about this thing with the schedule. And I think sometimes there's something about getting a new voice. And Liam Cohen's a new voice, and things are a little different now in Jacksonville. And I still don't know if Liam Cohen is a great head football coach, but sometimes you just need a fresh start, and the Jags have gotten that. And I feel like to a certain extent, we've kind of gotten a scenario here where, you're seeing the Colts start to get a little exposed here, a team that, got off to a rocket start. But how often have we seen, Matt, time and time again, these teams get off to amazing starts to the year, tend to fade a little bit down the stretch here when things get tight and they get tested. And that's starting to happen to the Colts a little bit. I think the Colts are on shaky ground, and Jacksonville has, again, nothing to lose, playing fast and loose. Like Joe Burrow is going to play today. Dangerous spot, very dangerous. We'll come back and get some guys off the waiver wire when we do.
You're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I think.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the best bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The New England Patriots with Drake May, the Indianapolis Colts, who haven't had like recent success, maybe not so young, but not, they haven't had playoff success. Right. The Jags, it's a very fresh playoff picture, so to speak. The Chargers hanging on right now to that 5. And Kansas City, Scott, they're going to need to beat the Houston Texans on Sunday night. Now it's real.
Yeah.
They lose this game, they're not making the playoffs.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave. Yep. He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
And FanDuel are getting ready to launch their own prediction market, so Polymarket will be coming back at a time when the competitive landscape is dominated by Kalshi, and soon it's going to have FanDuel and DraftKings in there as well, which I'm really eager to see what their products look like and how the timing kind of impacts the use of Polymarket. Will it be number one in the App Store for the next couple months? Who knows?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. You're watching FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you everything you need. And of course, we want to hear from you, and we'll take your questions at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Joey P., the author of the Fantasy Black Book, it's just changed the way so many people have wagered and won on fantasy and just straight up betting altogether. So thank you for that. Let's dive into this waiver wire ad, and this is crucial, maybe the most important one of the season with the playoff push right here. We're going to ask for players that are widely available. Nothing worse than going for a player that Joe talks about and you see someone else already picked him up. So, Joe, try to keep it that people that are available in at least 5 out of 10 leagues. And also, teams that we wouldn't be thinking of. Maybe there's some Jets and some Saints and some Dolphins. So let's start there. You got anyone for me?
Yeah, we're going to start with a Jet, if you can believe it. Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell, coming off a huge game last week. And I understand, people's hesitancy with A.D. Mitchell, but he's still floating around in a lot of leagues, coming off a game where he had 12 targets, 8 catches for 102 and a touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he has seen steady target volume from Tyrod Taylor since Taylor took over at QB, and the Jets have made their changes at the break. So you've seen 6 targets, 7 targets, 12 targets. The problem is in the first 2 games, you only caught 3 balls. So is this a matter of them getting on the same page, or is this just A.D. Mitchell yet again being a guy who has got a lot of moves and a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism, but not a lot of hands and not a lot of wide receiver technique? You can have that conversation. I think it's valid. But the conversation I'm going to have this week as a streamer is he's playing the Dolphins. And if you look at that and what Devon Vele did last week, well, we just talked about the big explosive plays he had. I think it bears notice. Now, if you also look ahead, we talked about CeeDee Lamb earlier in the show when we started and saying, well, what do you do, when you have some of these guys here, when you have CeeDee Lamb maybe missing that first week and you had to play him in the playoffs, you can't. A.D. Mitchell has a good schedule. He's got Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans the next 3 weeks. Championship week would be against New England. But the next couple of weeks for A.D. Mitchell are actually pretty good. So I think he's worth rostering. As you can see right now, he is available in almost 70% of leagues. I would pick him up. Even if you stop somebody else from picking him up, that would be a good move.
And I really like the practice of looking ahead at a player's upcoming games. It's something that we should normalize, I think. All right, so let's move away from an offense like the Jets. Do you have a player that's involved in an offense that's actually putting up points, an offense that's competitive?
Yeah, look, Blake Corum is part of a backfield with Kyren Williams, and there were reports this week that, not only did Kyren Williams sustain an injury last week, but he's going to play this week, that they also want to back off Kyren a little bit and save him, quote unquote, for the playoffs. Not your fantasy playoffs, the real playoffs. And I understand why. That resulted last week in Blake Corum having a season high 81 yards on the ground and a touchdown, right? So it was a good game for Blake Corum. He gets Arizona this week, Detroit, then Seattle. So a couple tough matchups there coming up for him, and then Atlanta in the championship week. So I think here's my 2 cents with Corum. He shouldn't be out there on the waiver wire, because if you have Kyren Williams, he's a must-have insurance policy. If you don't have Kyren Williams and one of your opponents does, and you've got Corum on the bench, and then Kyren has some other injury or some other issue happen, and they pivot to Corum, you all of a sudden just bought yourself a low-end RB1 in that Rams offense for nothing. So he needs to be on rosters. He's only 33% roster, a third of leagues. That's absurd. This is that time of year where you have to have some of those backup running backs in premium situations, and you've seen Corum perform just as early as last week that he could take over that workload and be great. And that is something that doesn't happen in every single backfield. So again, I would be putting Blake Corum in there, and you can even sneak a Singletary through the waiver wire too, based on Tyrone Tracy's injury, but that doesn't seem to be as bad as everybody thought in the meantime.
Told you, folks, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and Joe Pisapia is one of the main reasons why. All right, Joe, you mentioned a New Orleans Saint that had a good showing last week. Could it continue further down the season, and is he worth rostering?
Yeah, look, since week 12, Devon Vele has had an 18% target share, 65 receiving yards per game, and it's basically going unnoticed. And you could tell it's going unnoticed because he's rostered in less than 20% of leagues right now. So Vele is a guy that you can stream this week. I like the situation he's in against Tampa. Then after that, he gets Carolina, the Jets, and Tennessee. Devon Vele might have the best schedule of all the guys we've talked about coming up in terms of what he can do and being productive. Are the Saints going to have a lot of leads in games? No. Are they limited by Tyler Shuck to a certain extent? Yes, but Vele hasn't been limited by him. And, Chris Olave had a huge drop in that game last week, too, a touchdown that went right through his hands. Not the best look. Look, Chris Olave is still the better of the two wide receivers, but Chris Olave also gets all the attention. And that's important because that means that Devon Vele is still going to be out there in a lot of single coverage and a lot of scenarios where he could be productive in fantasy. In PPR leagues, maybe you're not going to get a ton of touchdowns, but is this a guy who can get 6 or 7 balls in a week? I think he can, and I think Devon Vele is a guy that another must pick up. And we look at that schedule. If you're looking for somebody to take over for CeeDee Lamb next week and you just don't like anything that's on the waiver wire and Vele's out there, you could do worse than Devon Vele.
All right, let's move on to a more established name. Maybe you can give me at a different position, maybe at the tight end position, and then hopefully if our producers give us time, maybe we can sneak in a defense.
Well, look, the best streaming tight end this week is not the guy we're going to talk about. It's Brenton Strange. If you have Brenton Strange against the Colts, you play him this week. If he's on the waiver wire, you play him this week. Last couple of games, you started to see this offense evolve a little bit. BTJ hasn't been great. Jacoby Myers is starting to come in now and do something. That's been good since they acquired him at the trade deadline. Brenton Strange is the best streaming tight end, followed probably closely by Dalton Kincaid. But if those guys are both gone, and I imagine they are in competitive leagues, Darren Waller just came back. And Darren Waller, if you have, George Kittle on a bye this week or any other tight end on a bye this week that you were playing, Darren Waller, I think, against the Jets could catch a touchdown and be relevant. So this is another one of those streaming situations. He is still available, again, in 70% of leagues. He should be out there. But Strange would be my number one, followed closely by Kincaid. You can even look at Colston Loveland, too. He's still under 50% rostered. If he is, you should have him because Roma Dunze's health hasn't been great. And you've seen just like a steady trend of Colston Loveland integrating himself in the offense. I think this time next year, Colston Loveland could be one of these, great fantasy tight ends. I think the development is there and the situation in the offense is too. And last but not least, too, streaming defense. How about the Washington Commanders? Not the greatest defense in the world, but J.J. McCarthy's been a turnover machine. He takes over for Brosmer, who started in his stead last week. We all know how that went. It wasn't good. It was awful. And the Washington Commanders have a chance to get some turnovers in this game, work with a lead. And the Vikings, I think, are a team that's just quit. So there you go. Those are the waiver wire pickups for Week 14. We come back to 3 and Out on FST.
Take a look at it, you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know Every year, I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Splash Brothers? How about the Curry Brothers? Curry Brothers have been reunited, folks, as Seth Curry has signed for the rest of the year, according to Shams Charania. This is a good sign for a Warriors team for what they need off the bench. Coming off a career year where he shot 45.6% from three. He is a career 43.3% shooter from three-point range.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
You've got an 18-1-6 hockey team. You've got a 10-2 football team. So the best record in hockey, the best record in football, and top 5 in the NBA with Jokic and the gang, and the Nuggets at 14-6. And I'm saying to myself, what other town comes close to that?
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Chris Beard said, I can just play different players. And kudos to Chris Beard. NIL does not matter. Recruiting rankings don't matter. Who your AAU coaches doesn't matter. At the end of the day as a coach, your loyalty is to your school. Your loyalty is to all the kids in the program.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports. Today we've been having a great time here. Stick around for more quality and insightful programming. And just so you know, it's not lost on me on this significant date in history. All those that have sacrificed, all those that have just given so that we can sit here and do this. And it's not just, and I don't want to take anything away from service members, but it's also people that just get up and go to work every day, or people that get out of bed every day. Sometimes that in and of itself is a struggle. So I just, from all of us here to all of you out there, and for all those that defend our opportunities to get up and get out and not be afraid of our own lives, thank you. Here's a guy that's not afraid of his own life. Joey P., my man, you are just got it all figured out. It's time for 3 and Out. 3 things that the most complete and level-headed human being that I know is looking forward to today. Go ahead.
Yes, well, that's scary that I'm the most level-headed and complete person you know. Very, very. You got to expand your circle. I think that's probably a good idea. All right, first thing. Well, you know, we have similarities. I'm sure he and I, I sword fight, play pirates, hang out. They like, it's probably the same kind of stuff. So what are you gonna do? All right, Cincinnati, Buffalo. Let's start there. Giant total, lots of fantasy implications. Put all your chips in the middle of this one. Could it disappoint? Maybe. Will it disappoint? Probably not. You know why? Because the defenses of both these teams stink. Okay, I've seen them all year. And now there's even less pieces there for the Buffalo Bills. It's not going to be good. And Joe Burrow doesn't care. He gives 0 Fs, as the kids like to say, okay? He's like, what am I playing here for? Because I love football. That was his answer on Thanksgiving. I came back because I love football. Are we going to get in the playoffs? No. I don't care. Can I stick it to everybody and Josh Allen included on the way out and Lamar Jackson? Yeah, I can. And I like that kind of revenge factor. I like that kind of bitterness. I'm Italian. We know how to hold grudges. Vendettas is an Italian word, right? So here you go. Joe Burrow's going to go out there. He's going to go to Buffalo and he's going to say, sorry, everybody. We're going to make this a really hard day for you. Now, the Buffalo Bills should win this football game. But if this doesn't perform into the 60s, then we've all been cheated on Sunday. This should go into the 60s. It should. It should be a 38-37 game. That's what I want from this game. And if anything less than that, it's disappointing, and I don't want to hear it. Next up there, speaking of disappointing, how about Pittsburgh at Baltimore? This is another one, too. Giant implications. Lamar Jackson, obviously hurt, obviously not playing well, obviously killing you in fantasy. If you want to start somebody else over him, I get it. If you want to start Jacoby Brissett over him, I get it. I understand. I'm not going to tell you no at this point. It's been really bad for Lamar Jackson. Could he pull it out this week? and put on a good show here against the in-division opponent, Pittsburgh Steelers? Maybe, but that should have happened last time we saw Lamar Jackson, and it didn't against an in-division opponent that was easier. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is got a real spot here. And I want to talk about this for a second. I think the Mike Tomlin scenario here is coming to a head. I really do. I thought it was going to go in a bad direction when they hired Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. And I think it was going to go even worse when Aaron Rodgers came in, and all of those things have come to fruition. The Pittsburgh Steelers since 1960-something have had 3 head coaches. It's kind of stunning. The Jets have had 3 head coaches just this decade. Just this decade, they've had 3. Okay? And we're only in year 5. We're only halfway through. I just want perspective out there for everybody. So I think it's time for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to amicably part ways, where it's just time to move on for everybody. And I think it would be good for Tomlin, it would be good for the Steelers, and just a fresh voice. What do you think, Matt? Am I taking the continuity too much for granted, or is it just time for a change in Pittsburgh?
I think in this day and age, Joe, you and I come from a time where guys stayed and identities mattered. And I think Tomlin is a throwback. I do believe that with the right pieces in place that he could restore Pittsburgh. I don't think they're so far gone. I mean, I understand your position with both the coordinator and the quarterback, but you can change those 2 things. You still have the right head coach. I will return, serve, and say to you, it's not so much a question of who's better, but it's whose voice. What different voice would you know? There is a saying, the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And where would Tomlin go? He would go anywhere, but what would the Steelers do? I don't think they give up an asset like that. So back to you, and you'll take us home. If not Tomlin, then whom?
That's the problem. If not Tomlin, then whom? It is. And that is really tricky. It is very tricky. I think at a certain point, you're right. Like, I agree with you. I think continuity does matter. I think the fact that they've been willing to have patience in some of those bad times, but we also have to call the results what they are, which is in the last 7 years or so, Mike Tomlin's turned into Marvin Lewis. He can't win a playoff game. I think that matters in Pittsburgh. And maybe it's a point where the same voice over and over again just falls on deaf ears. It's just time for a change. Also, the Jacksonville Jaguars haven't lost to the Colts in their own building since 2014. It's a long time ago, and I don't think they can lose today. That's the last thing I'm looking at. Go upset special. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Matt Striker, I'm Joey P. See you next time, kids. Enjoy your Sunday.
They have a bigger talent pool potentially, and they're going to give them anything it takes to potentially get this team back to a national championship. And if you want to set a legacy, you could maybe have one good year at Ole Miss and maybe potentially, 5 or 6 9-3 campaigns, but you're not going to make the playoff each and every season, or at least that's the mindset. You have a better path at LSU or a bigger school.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
You're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I said.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the Best Bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone has just been lying about this whole thing. Okay. Of the top 15 teams in the country, there are 4 total losses to unranked football teams. Miami has half of them.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Florida was thought to get Lane Kiffin, but they go and turn to Tulane head coach John Summerall. This is a solid hire, coach.
He's a tough-minded coach. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Auburn, just knowing he's from Alabama. But I think Florida got an outstanding coach. He will be a tough nut that knows how to win football games.
The Bowden Blitz, only on